Hello and welcome to another exciting tutorial with tutexpert.com. Today we're going to learn how to create a simple CSS styled menu. What we're using is CSS to basically tell this menu when you hover over these links to change the text color. And I'm using Dreamweaver CS6 to create this. You don't need anything near this powerful. But whatever you're using, you're going to want to start off with a new HTML document. It's probably going to enter some default text here, or some default doc type head and metadata right here where the title is. You're definitely going to want to change that. We're going to change it to Spark Ideas, and since this is the home page, we'll type in home. And I like to use just 2 colons and whatever page I'm on just to designate that. Now what we're going to want to do is put for this editor, you know, CS6, I've styled it to look very similar to previous versions, so I've got all my little quick links up here. The top, I've made a split screen to where I have code on the top and whatever my browser is going to see on the bottom. I can do a live view. I just go ahead and go with the standard, what I'm used to. So you'll see I'm going to start with inserting a basic main div wrapper, and we're going to call this a main wrapper, and I will create a CSS style sheet for this. So I don't want it in a document, I do want a style sheet so I can use it more than once. And I am using the ID instead of class, and the reason is because I think of IDs as a big square, and it's kind of a big container to hold all the data that I'm going to put in. So it's asking for the style rule, for the name of the style sheet. I do call it stylesheet.css, and I put it right in the root. That's typically how I do it. Now remember I said think of this as a big square or box, so I go straight here to box and then define it. And for this site we're going to make it 1,000 pixels wide. You know, anywhere between 800 or 1200 is probably a safe zone. 1200 is getting a little iffy depending on what type of viewer your you know, customer or whoever's viewing the site may be using a tablet or something. You got to watch going much further than 1,000. So I don't usually define the height, but for the purposes of this tutorial I'll give it a definition. I let my content fill it in, so it just keeps growing as I keep adding things in there. So we'll insert this at the insertion point, which is in between the body tag. We'll get rid of the default text there, and as you see it's already align top, align left. Well, align top's fine, but align left's an issue. So we need to go in here and under box. We don't want to use padding because that affects the inside. We want to push away from the outside, and that's a margin, the way the margins do it. Now we can just go in the CSS style sheet and type margin : auto, but I like to be specific. I'm really picky about browser, having everything look the same in different browsers. Best way to do that is to be as specific as possible with your CSS rules. So we're going to say right side auto, left side auto, click OK, and there we go. And if we go to the style sheet, you can see height 800, width 1,000, margin right auto, margin left. Now like I said, you can't just put margin : auto. It can just be something like that without this, and we will have the same effect. But there we go. I need to click in here. There we go. It will have the same effect, but I like to be specific, so we'll go back to source code here. Now inside the menu wrapper, I'm sorry, not menu wrapper, main wrapper, we're going to want to put a header, and inside the header we're going to put a logo and menu wrapper and address wrapper. So we're going to create a new style rule, or CSS rule, and I want this to be 1,000 pixels wide. I don't need to worry about floating it left or right, because 1,000 pixels inside something that's 1,000 pixels will automatically have it centered, because it's going to be the exact width that it can be. I mean the maximum width that it can be. I'm typically between 150 and 250 pixels for a header. That's a normal range. 150 is good. You can get quite a bit of stuff in there. Very good size for, like, here I'll show you. We're going to put a logo in, This is quite a decent sized logo. It's 400 pixels wide. I don't need any alternate text. That's when you hover over it. Do you want it to pop up and say anything? You can link this to home, so if you wanted, you could put a link right here to index, your index page. Actually, HTML for this one, so when someone clicks on it, it goes there. But one thing we're going to want to do, definitely going to want to wrap this in its own div. So we're going to want to put a logo wrapper around this, and we'll create a new CSS rule, and we will make this, let's see, what are we going to make? The width, how about 410 is what it was, and we'll make the height 150. Click apply, click OK, and there we go. Alright, so now, let's see, we've got div ID, logo wrapper. We do have the hyperlink anchor, the anchor, which is a link reference, a link anchor for clicking on this image, is inside the div, so everything looks good. Now I do need to push this logo down by using let's use padding. We'll push the top down 25 pixels, and if we do that, we've got to take 25 pixels off the height. There we go. Now you see, I will show you what I mean by that. I pushed it down 25 pixels. So in order to do that, I had to take 25 pixels off the height, otherwise this logo wrapper would have went below my 150 limit for my header. So we wanted to make sure that we did that. Now I'm going to push it from the left too. I'm going to go ahead and get it just about 10 pixels in. Now you may expect me to take 10 pixels off the left, but I don't really need to. I just need to remember that I'm adding 10 pixels, and here's why. There's nothing over here, so it doesn't matter if it pushes into this. I just need to know that even though this says 410, I have an extra 10 in padding, so that's really 420. So this next div ID can only be 580. So hopefully that made sense there. So just remember, if you're putting pixels on the left, you need to add them in your overall width. So even though this says 410, if we hover over it, you see it says 410 there, and then the height 125. We have an extra 10 in padding, so we have to calculate that. So that means it's 420, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's see, that's the logo wrapper. Right after that, before we close out of the header, we'll put in an address wrapper. And this address wrapper is going to be 580. And we probably only need 75 pixels for height. And we'll click OK. Now it's down here because I didn't tell it to float right, and I do need to do that, but that only fixes part of the problem. I'll show you why. We're gonna float right, and see, it did float right, but it's not up here. And the reason why it's not up here is because we didn't tell this logo wrapper that it can float left. So in order for these to coexist on the same line, the same level here, the left side needs to say float left, right side needs to say float right. They both got to have float rules in in the CSS rules. We got to have a float left and float right. All right, so we're in the logo wrapper. That's going to float left. We'll click OK, and there we go. They can exist harmoniously together. So inside this address wrapper, let's put our address, 1400 somewhere Lane. It's going to be in Lansing, Michigan, 48910, and the phone number is going to be 517-555-1212. And even though these are on separate lines, watch, it doesn't go on separate lines here. So the only way it knows to do that is to put a break function in here, or a break tag. So we'll copy it by Control or Command C, and Control or Command V will paste it. So we'll break that line and then that line, and we don't need to worry about the last one, obviously. If I used a paragraph by putting a P here and then closing the tag P, it would double space it. So I didn't really want to do that. That's why I used break. Now we do need to define the text. I like to keep everything looking nice. So Arial, Helvetica, and Sans Serif are real good choices for browsers. Probably only need 14 pixels high for this, and let's see, probably 6 would be a good color. Oh, and we need to text align right. So let's apply and see what we've got here. Oh, what happened? That was all for the logo, wasn't it? So let me get out of that. Let me back up, make sure, good. And we need to go to block, text line right, yes, because we don't need all that in there. It's the address that I'm looking to change. So Helvetica, alright, 14, and I think 6 is what we chose. And what else do we need here? Oh yes, we need to tell it align right, text align right, click OK, and it is over there. Now we want to push it down a bit, so I can either use padding or margin. So let's look. Height 25. If I use margin and we go down 25 pixels, then I need to change the height to 50, and I think that's enough space, and it is. There we go. Now I need to put a menu wrapper right before this closes. So right before the end here, I'll drop it down 1, arrow up, and I'll insert a menu wrapper, and here's where it gets nice here. So we're going to have a menu holder or menu wrapper, and I will make this 580, and the height, let's just say 75 for now. Okay, and voila, it is trying to squeeze top left. So let's float it right, and that will fix that. There we go, float right. Alright, now the text that's going to be in here is going to be our actual menu. So we'll put home, about, services, projects, and what was it, contact, I believe. Okay, and there we go. Now I'm just going to put just a number symbol here for the link, so that it actually, I can style it. I'll go back and change that to the actual link later, but for the purposes of styling, I just fill this in with just some blanks that are a number symbol. So if you were to click on it, nothing would happen, but it does allow me to create a CSS rule that I can style these. Now I want all of these to kind of be in their own div. Well, I could go through and put each one in their own div, or I could do something quite simple. I could create, there we go, create a new CSS rule. I'll be a little less specific because it's just menu wrapper A, anchor, and I will put display block, and that's under the block menu. But in CSS, you can just put menu wrapper A, display block. Something that simple, and it puts them all in their own little IDs. That's wonderful. Or own little, yeah, I guess it's like a div ID. So I want them to float left. Even though I have the menu wrapper floating right, I am not telling the menu wrapper to float left. I'm telling the anchor inside the menu wrapper to float left, and look at that. They're all aligned nice in order. Now if I said float right, you would expect all of this to push over to the right, but it wouldn't. It would be backwards. Let me show you what I mean, just so you don't make that mistake. See, contact project services. So you'd have to write the whole menu backwards, then float right if you wanted to do that. So we don't. We'll put float left. Now what else do we want? We need some padding. The great thing about this is I don't have any width or height defined, because it's exactly wrapped around the width of whatever the content is in there. So when I put, 25 pixels, or we're probably going to need 50 pixels really, to push that all the way down, see, it doesn't affect anything. I don't have a height defined, so I don't need to take 50 pixels off my height, because it's inside of this display block div. So left and right needs about 15, maybe 20 pixels. So let's see, that's not bad. Let's do this. Let's go define the text. Arial, Helvetica, Sans Serif, okay, and the size probably 16, and the color, we want a dark color. Let's go at 3s, and then the text transformation probably uppercase. Capitalized is just the first letter. I already have that, so let's uppercase. Oh yeah, nice. And text decoration, I don't need it underlined, so I'll put none. Let's insert an image after our menu wrapper right here, or our holder rather, our header wrapper. Let's insert our banner image just so that we can get an idea. Now let's go look at it in Firefox and see what it looks like. We want to save it. And what is this? Oh, that's for the CSS files. We want to save them too. Alright, everything works great, except if you see that it doesn't change colors. The link works, but it's not changing color. So how do we do that? Well, we got to create a new rule that is a pseudo class. So I'll be a little less specific. I'm going to create a menu wrapper a, watch this, colon hover rule. So we're going to be creating a compound ID rule that's a pseudo class hover. So when I hover over, what is going to happen? Now, because it is a pseudo class, I do not have to go and redefine the font family, the font size, the text decoration, if I could say that, text decoration, the text transformation. I don't need to redo that. All I need to do is change whatever I want changed. So if I wanted it to go back to lowercase, then I'd click that. But I don't. I just want the color to change. So I want it to go to, we'll just choose C and click OK, and watch this. This is nice. Oh, there we go. Working beautifully. All right. Now, thank you for watching. That's really a simple CSS menu. And this is, if you're watching on YouTube, you can go to visit our site at tutexpert.com. If you are on tutexpert.com, go ahead and choose another video and get yourself some knowledge. Thanks.